we'd like to welcome everyone to our June 6th regularly scheduled council meeting. If everybody will please rise, Councilman Brannigan will lead us in the prayer.
Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you this hour asking for your blessing and your help as we gather here together. We pray for your guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you show us clearly how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and a spirit of enthusiasm. We ask that you challenge us to reach higher and farther, to be the best that we can be in serving the constituents of the city of Kenner. And we want to pray in a special way for several of the members of our Kenner family who have passed recently. Helen Zito, the mother of Patty Zito in our council office, and former Chief Mike Zito. For Herman Clay, who is retired from the police department. For Jack Earhart, Kevin Earhart's father, a 63-year resident of Kenner. And for Herman Dewey, Marion Dewey's husband and the father of the late Butch Dewey. And then we want to pray for those in our city who are sick, members of our family, Mr. Vic Calderera and Mr. Joe Fertito, and anyone else who is sick or convalescing, that you be with them as they recover and guide their families in caring for them. And again, we want to pray that you light the path for all of our graduates this season, whether it's kindergarten, middle school, high school, college, that you show them the way and that they follow you closely. In your name, we pray for all of these things. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Councilman Stagney, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council Clerk?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chairman, you have a quorum this evening. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. The consent agenda this evening consists of item number 1, approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of May 16, 2013. Item 2, approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. We have none. Item 3, approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A, application number 175413, Celebracion Hispana, to hold a public gathering for a block party on June 15, 2013, from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. at Lake Town. Item 3B is application number 1755-13, the Treasure Chest Casino, to hold a public gathering for a 4th of July fireworks display on July 4, 2013, from 9 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. at Lake Town. Item 4 is correspondence and reports from the mayor and our CAO or department heads. We have none. Item 5 is acceptance and rejection of bids requiring an expenditure of less than $5,000. Item 5A is a resolution authorizing repairs to 2012 Chevrolet Tahoe Unit 174 in the amount of $4,960 by Lenny's Body Shop for the Kenner Police Department. Item 5B is a resolution accepting the responsive bid received from Continental Equipment Company in the amount of $4,350.57 for the purchase of a new 2-section 49 cubic foot stand-up freezer for the Kenner Food Bank in accordance with telephone bid number T13-2037 for the Department of Community Development. Item 5C is a resolution accepting the responsive bid received from Tumba Communications Incorporated in the amount of $4,117.90 to furnish and install telephone recording system at the Fire Communications Facility in accordance with telephone bid number T13-2042 for the Kenner Fire Department. Item 5D is a resolution authorizing repairs to the 2013 Dodge Charger unit number 407 in the amount of $4,205 by accident for the Kenner Police Department. Item 5E is a resolution authorizing the purchase and installation of 8 LA Tech 21-inch flat panel LCD composite BNC monitors and accessories from LA Tech LLC in the amount of $4,824 utilizing State of Louisiana contract number 409133 for the Kenner Police Department. Item 6 is change orders requiring an expenditure of less than $5,000. We have none. Item 7 is acceptance of committee findings for final passage. We have none. Item 8 is re-subdivision ordinances for final passage. Item 8A is summary ordinance number 11,552. An ordinance approving the plan of re-subdivision of parcel D4 A6-1 into parcels D4 A6A and D4 A6B, Highway Park Subdivision, Kenner, Louisiana.
Motion by Councilwoman Brannigan, second by Councilwoman Black to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Pardon me? Did you wish to remove something from the consent agenda? You want clarification? Would you put on your cue, please? And I'll acknowledge you. Okay, go ahead.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. On the consent agenda, I noticed on 5D, maybe the police chief can ask me answer this question. Accident, $4,205 on accident. I'm just trying to find out, typically that's small and minor repairs. $4,200 is not small and minor repairs. So I was just kind of curious what happened to that vehicle.
All right. Mother Nature happened. It was the
Hail
hailstorm
damage?
that we had
Yeah.
a few months ago. A number of vehicles, mostly Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office vehicles, but one of our guys is assigned to the Criminal Intelligence Task Force in Jefferson Parish, and his vehicle was battered with golf ball-sized hail. And
Okay.
now it looks like a golf ball with wheels on it.
I can imagine. No, because I mean, and I just want to clarify that because obviously it got hit in a hailstorm because $4,200 with accident repairs is it's pretty high. I appreciate your clarification on it. Thank you much.
Of course, he probably had it parked by Chateau Estates Golf Club.
No, actually, it was on the West Bank. We didn't really get it over here. It was actually the West Bank took a pounding.
Thank
Oh, I
you,
can
Chief.
imagine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief,
Okay,
for clarifying that.
motion by Councilman Brannigan, second by Councilman Black to approve the consent. Please vote.
One more?
One more. Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Under the public appearance agenda, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. Item 9A is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 11,537, an ordinance adopting the operating budget for the city of Kenner for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2013 and ending June 30th, 2014, and amending ordinance number 7549.
Okay, motion by Councilwoman Brannigan, second by Councilman Black to open a public hearing. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
We're now in a public hearing to hear summary ordinance number 11,537. If there's anyone from the audience who wishes to come to speak, please give your name and address, and remember you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. Richard Brown, 824 Sessions Lane, Kenner. Just wanted to make one comment. I am glad to know that the mayor has proposed cutting the car allowances in half for the directors and supervisory personnel. I have felt, as have many, that
Give me your name.
the car allowances were excessive, and we've always felt that they should be based on actual need and actual use. It should be a reimbursement plan rather than just a flat car allowance. We fully support all Kenner City employees being properly reimbursed for the business use of their cars. We don't expect them to use their cars without compensation. But my concern is that I don't see how this can be done through the budget ordinance when the charter requires that any change in the compensation of supervisory personnel must be done by ordinance. And I hope that someone, either the administration or someone on the council, will follow this up with an ordinance if in fact it is being done. And in fact, I would much prefer to see the city change to an actual reimbursement system like most businesses use, where the employees are reimbursed roughly 50 cents a mile or whatever figure you want to use for the business use of their car, and they document it. And that way they're not paid for driving to and from work. And you may have a handful of employees who use their cars so much that maybe they are entitled to a monthly allowance or to a city car, but I think there would only be very few of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay. Please, if there's anyone else that would like to speak, please vote to close. Motion by Councilman Brannigan, second by Councilman Black to close the public hearing. Motion to approve by Councilwoman Brannigan, Councilman Black, second by Councilwoman Brannigan.
Your motion to close passed 7-0.
Thank you. Motion to approve by Councilman Black, second by Councilman Brannigan. Before we go into discussion, I have a couple of amendments I'd like to add to this operating budget. First, we'd like to have the reduced $32,600 from the grass cutting line item and $10,000 from the demolition expense line item in the Code Enforcement Administration budget to restore the proposed cut from the auto allowances in the travel and professional development line items in the respective departments. And the second, which we could do individually or we could do it by Globo, is in the proposed capital budget, reduce the transfer from 2,000. Oh, that's excuse me. I'm overstepping myself. This is for the capital budget. So that is my amendment for the reduction of $32,600 from the grass cutting item and $10,000 from the demolition to make up the allowances in the travel and professional development line items in the prospective departments. Motion by Councilman Black, second by Councilwoman Brannigan. Any discussion on the amendment? Duke McConnell, you have the floor.
I just want to mention that the second one actually affects both the capital and the operating budget. It's an amendment to the capital budget, but part of it flows into the operating budget, so it's going to affect both of them.
Okay. I thought I was right, but then when Mr. Denopoulos said something, I looked at the capital and I thought that I had made a mistake.
We need to get that straight.
So should I resubmit the second one or just do it individually? That's what I'll do. I'll do each one individually since we're on that one and we've already discussed that. Okay, Councilman Stagney, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I think we need to do it individually so that everybody has an opportunity to speak on each amendment.
Absolutely.
The first amendment, when we were at the budget hearings,
I'm so sorry, sir. I need a motion and a second for your amendment to put it on the floor.
Councilman Black, second by Councilman Brannigan.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay.
during budget hearings, I had outlined in both on page 61 of the budget and the grass cutting line item that they had excessive money based on the new contract and what we were going to finish up with this year. Additionally, demolition was budgeted higher than what we would end up this year, and because code's been aggressive on these chronic violators, they now know that we're aggressive, and they're starting to knock down their own houses. So there's more than enough money in those two line items, and Councilwoman Black has identified the specific amount. Last July, we were told that these reimbursements / compensation was needed for our employees and the work that they do, both in the street using their cars, their phones with the data. After looking at it for a very long time, this council decided 7-0 to vote for that additional compensation. We felt strongly that it was needed, We looked at it long and hard, and I don't think anybody has the authority to change that on their own because we did it as legislation. It has to be amended as legislation. Additionally, 2.13 of the charter specifically spells out particular ordinances that have to lay over 28 days and specifically says if you're going to change the compensation of any of your supervisors or anybody in a supervisory capacity, that has to be done by a separate ordinance. Way back when the AG, Attorney General, ruled on the executive pay plan, that was a point of information that he brought forth in his opinion. And that's something that we have in our charter that almost no one else has. And the reason is to be more transparent to the general public as to what's going on. Whether you're for or against it, that's not important. What's important is that you bring it to the public and allow everyone to have that opportunity. In previous mayors and councils, they buried this kind of stuff in a budget. And they did it that way. That's not the proper way, in my view, to do it. So I'm going to support this. I brought it up at the budget hearings. I think that we need to restore those allowances while still keeping the popular program, the trial program of recycling. So I'm in favor, Madam President, and I will support it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Brannigan, you had the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to clarify something further that Councilmember Stagney brought up. Mr. McConnell, it might be confusing to people to hear that we would have additional monies in the code that we could transfer over for another purpose, but in our conversations, you had told us that a lot of the grass cutting monies were overestimated because of the adjudicated properties.
That's correct. Over the last several years, we've had several sales of the adjudicated properties. So we've had dozens of properties that we were maintaining on a regular basis. Now we're back in commerce. So the amount of grass cutting we have to do has gone down significantly.
Right, okay. So, because I didn't want people to think that we weren't going to be as aggressive because we were cutting the budget and would not now have the monies to maintain the grass that we were responsible for. But in fact, we are not responsible for as much as we used to be through those sales of those properties.
Right.
And they're now privately maintained. And the other thing is, and this may be getting off base, so I'll cut it here, is that we've got a new contract on the demolition, so we think that it's not going to be as costly. So the money that we're taking is not going to eliminate us doing the exact same work that we've done in the past. It's just that we've reevaluated the amount that we've needed because of those specific purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Brannigan. Councilwoman DeFrancis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President. That was fun. Sorry about that. Anyway, I just want everyone to know that we are simply restoring money. We're not giving raises. We're not doing anything else than restoring money that was taken away. I will tell you, I have called our directors, for example, Mr. Dillenkoffer, he and I were out on Bordeaux at 11 and 12 o'clock at night, at 1 and 2 in the morning when there were problems in the street. Whether I call purchasing, whether I call Mr. Hebert, no matter who I call, and no matter what time it is, they not only answer the phone, if we have to have a meeting then and there to address an immediate problem, they're there for us. So they do use their cars, they use their phones. Ms. Terrell and I go to meetings together on Saturdays, spend all of our Saturdays together more times than you can count. So I truly believe, like Councilman Stagney and others have said, that they are entitled to be reimbursed for the cars that they use, through the car allowance, as well as the cell phone and other uses that require them to be able to do the job they do. So I think this council is united behind our employees and our directors, and I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman DeFrancis. Councilman Carroll, you have the floor. Should be on here. Your mic is on, Councilman Carroll.
Okay, I didn't see the red. Thank you, Madam President. And not to be redundant, based on Councilwoman DeFrancis and Councilman Stagney, as we all said, this particular adjustment that we're doing is not increasing anything, but through our conversations, we all agree that, to do something if we're going to do something, we need to do it in the proper ordinance, by law, and procedure, and this was not the proper way to do this. Sometimes things like this happen, and it gets the headlines just as a highlight, but that is not the way to do it. And I think by doing this, if this is something that we're going to address in the future, we should do it the proper way. So that is why we're doing it this way for all the men and women that we're going to have the reduction for their transportation. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Would you remove your cue, Greg, please? Mayor Yenny.
I think the proper way to do it was to see if the council agreed with me on reducing it, and then putting an ordinance in front of y'all reducing those salaries. That was my intention on doing that, to reduce those benefits. It was not the incorrect way to do it. It was, let's make sure we put the horse before the cart. I wasn't going to put the other ordinance forward unless y'all agreed with me on what y'all are doing. And there's no question that these employees aren't entitled to what they're getting. It's called doing more with less. I have done without my expense allowance. The city doesn't pay for me to have a cell phone or reimbursement for cell phones. It's doing more with less. I didn't want to cut the budget anymore. I'm concerned about blight in this city. Tamithia is running a very good code department, no question. We've got better contracts since Mr. Jose Gonzalez has come on board, and we are getting a bigger bang for our buck with these contracts. But I was very concerned. We have a hurricane in the Gulf already. I didn't want the fund balance to be reduced. I wanted to continue recycling, and that's why I proposed what I proposed. There is, just for clarification, no question that the people that get these allowances are not entitled to them. Believe me, they use their cars, they use their phones, and the only thing we were addressing here were the cars. And had y'all passed it tonight, the next ordinance coming before y'all on first reading would have been, on the next meeting, would have been one to ask for the reduction in those salaries to do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and I think that all of us up here are responsible enough to know that we want to do everything that's correct. We want to be able to rectify anything that has happened in the past that was not correct, and we'd like to, and we're happy to have enough funding that we're able to do this without dipping into any additional monies. So with that, we will close the vote on the amendment. No one else is here, wishes to discuss. So please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
And the second amendment, if I may, with still having the floor, in the proposed budget, capital budget, reduce the transfer from 2013-2014 capital projects fund to the general fund by $600,000 and establish $600,000 for capital projects to be equally divided between the 5 councilmatic districts, coming to $120,000. And the explanation for this is that there was some discussion as to whether we wanted to make up for the deficit in regard to from the general fund or from the capital. I think the consensus of this council feels like the district councilmen are the backbone of this community, of our council, and they represent their districts, and they need additional monies, so that $120,000 will be put towards each of the 5 district councilmen. The councilmen at large do not receive any of that money, and they will be. We will be taking half from the from the capital and half from the general fund. So I'd like to open the floor up. If Councilman Denopoulos, you had the floor.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I do, once again, I'm in favor of this amendment, but I do want to change something slightly in it that I talked to some of our colleagues about, is that to make sure that the expenditures of those funds in the districts are under the direction of the council in each district.
That shouldn't be a problem, because I think what happens is it all goes into your capital outlay money, and then you have an opportunity to say what you want, with projects you
Exactly.
take priority on, and
think
only
all the
that district councilman can determine
as
which way they spend the money that is allotted to their district.
Right, if you just add that under the direction of councilman, because I think these, the council people here know exactly what we can desperately use that money
Okay.
for.
Well, we have to have a motion to my amendment first, because I failed to do that, and it's motion by Councilman Brannigan.
Wait, I'm putting your motion
Okay.
on the floor with
Okay.
an amendment, so I need a second.
Okay, so you're saying that, That's what she's telling me. I didn't put my amendment on the floor,
Okay.
this amendment, and then you can discuss it, and that was my mistake. So there's a motion by Councilwoman Black, second by Councilwoman Brannigan on the amendment, and I'll read it to you once more in case we forget or get sidetracked. In the proposed capital budget, reduce the transfer from the 2013-2014 Capital Projects Fund to the general fund by $600,000 and establish $600,000 for capital projects to be equally divided between the 5 councilmatic districts, $120,000 each, with the district councilman having the say on which projects it would be allotted to. Does that make you happy, Mr. DeNapoli?
With the direction of the councilman.
With direction of the council. Okay, I'll write that down for you later for you. Is there any more discussion? Does anyone else wish to discuss the amendment?
I second it.
Motion by Councilman Black, second by Councilman. It's already on the floor, Kent.
Okay, I didn't know.
By Councilman Black and second by, you confusing me today? I'm going to stop looking at you.
It's sharp, girl.
It's motion by Councilman Brannigan, Black, second by Councilman Brannigan on the amendment. Councilman DeNapoli, you have spoken.
I've spoken.
Would you remove your cue, please? Councilman Stagney, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. So essentially what we're doing is you're taking half of the capital for the treasure chest money to pay for operating
With a noose around my neck, you understand that?
and taking the other portion, the other half, out of the fund balance to pay for
Make up for
the
the deficit.
operating and to leave some capital open so that we can get some needed work done in the community. Just so I understand, just to be sure, and look, I agree with you. Normally, you don't want to take, you want to use your ordinances that, especially the one you passed, for capital projects all the time. It's not unusual. During the downtime, the recession, many municipal governments have had to use some capital to pay for their operating so they don't have to lay off firemen, policemen, public works employees, and other employees. And it's a common practice. I don't like it. We've had to do it the last 3 or 4 years, but we've always taken a very sensible approach to it in taking a little bit from each side. The only question I had, just to be sure, when Mr. DeNapoli asked you to add, did it say approval or under the direction of the district councilman?
Yes,
Okay, can we just make sure that language is in there
and
under
I'm
the
going to write
direction of
that
the
in
district
for, to
councilman?
make sure, because
I'm for it, and I think we're doing what we have to do to become, to continue to be sustainable, viable, and still provide the services that our residents have been accustomed to. And we've done a very good job of that. There's a lot of capital that does go on. We all want more, but I know in my district, in the district I represent, like the districts everyone else represents, that money will be well spent in the community. So I'm going to support this amendment. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Stagney. Councilwoman Brannigan, you have the floor.
Okay, now. Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I wanted to say, I was speaking with Councilmember Reyno earlier, and he said it in a way that I think we have expressed it before, so it's worth repeating. We balance our budgets just like a family does. And so you put aside money for your normal expenses, whether it's your groceries, your lights, your children's tuition, clothes, whatever is in your budget. And then you're always, or you should be, and most families are, trying to save for either a vacation or in the event of, they need a new appliance or whatever the thing is. And in tough times, families often have to dip into their savings to do things that, just to make ends meet. So we are no different than anybody else in the city and any other, besides a municipality, but a family trying to find a way to make ends meet during tough times. The thing that I'm happy about is that we have never done this without making a face and it being very difficult for us. It's a difficult decision because we have tried to cut and we have tried to scale back. It's not that we aren't making those efforts as well. So the minute that this doesn't hurt to do this is the time that I'm going to be more concerned for us, instead of when we have looked at other options and realized that this is what we have to do to be able to continue to provide services for our city. So I'm happy that we still struggle with this. I hope long after I'm gone and Councilmember Black are gone, especially Councilmember Black, who grimaces every time that, because she knows it's coming over the past few years, that if the city is in this position, that it's also a difficult decision. So let me just say that it's not something that we're doing because we know we have money to put our hands on. This is a very difficult position for us, and it's a very difficult stance for us to take, but it is not unlike what most of you face at this time as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Brannigan. And I will close by just saying, yes, this amendment is bittersweet for me because I'm a firm believer in saving the money and trying to get by as the best you can without having to go into money that you have had dedicated to capital projects. I use an analogy as in the late 60s, you know, the federal government started using the Social Security money because they had so much money in the fund for Social Security that they started using Social Security dollars to the tune of $5 million a day. And now Social Security is nearly bankrupt because they've been using that in the operation of the country and relying on that for various programs. And that is something that I don't want to have to do. I think to my I'll be on my last dying breath, I'll be saying, leave a message with the council. Please do not spend dedicated revenues on pre-existing revenues or deficits that we have in the whole, plug up a hole, something like that. They laugh at me when I talk about this because I am so passionate about this because the analogy that Councilman Reno gave was great. You know, you don't spend money you don't have. So I'm going to go ahead and close and ask for a vote before I make a bigger fool of myself. So let's go ahead and take a vote. Please, Mr. Dinopoulos.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
Okay, now on approval, Councilwoman Brannigan, did you wish to speak on approval?
Yes, ma'am. Just wanted to add.
Motion by Councilman Black, second by Councilman Brannigan, by the way, on approval.
I just wanted to add one more thing, that one of the other things that we're mindful of when we move monies, especially from our reserve, is whether or not it's going to affect us when it comes to our bond rating and qualifying for things such as when we went for the sewer monies and when we're going for these bond monies, that it's not something that's going to negatively impact the city and reflect us in a poor light before these boards who consider the amounts that we have in reserves as one of the criteria for qualifying for some of the programs that we are submitting to. And in this situation, Mr. McConnell could tell you that there is a criteria or a range as to what is an acceptable amount in reserves, anywhere from 5 to 15% for a jurisdiction our size, and we fall right at that 10%. And so it should not, I say should, can I say will not affect what we are attempting to accomplish with all the other bonds and what have you that we've applied for. So we are mindful when we do these things too as to how it will impact our future. So thank you.
Councilwoman DeFrancis.
Thank you, Council President. First, let me say that I am going to be voting for the budget, but I do have to make a statement, and I hope everyone's going to understand what I have to say. I believe it's very important to work together as a council, but we're not always going to agree on every issue. And as long as you have valid reasons for your opinion, as long as you have valid reasons for the position you're taking, I have no problem if people disagree with me. It's just a difference of the way we look at certain issues. And so before I vote on the operating budget, I have to make one comment. And that one comment is that I am not, at this moment in time, and I'm going to give you my reasons, in favor of creating a new position for the council. And the reasons are threefold. Number one, people right now are so tired of government expanding, and creating new positions. And I have a very, very big qualm in supporting creating a new position when the people have spoken and said they want smaller government, not larger. But that in and of itself would not be enough. there's a second reason. My second reason has to do with our budget itself. We had to find money to make sure that our budget was neutral, that we didn't have a deficit. We do have a deficit. We had to find money to make sure that we could make sure that that deficit did not stay on the record, that we were able to move money around, as we have just done, to make sure that we are revenue neutral at this point. So how can I justify voting for a new position which will necessitate the city to spend another $70,000 when we're trying to find money and taking money from the fund balance, taking money from capital? Again, I have a problem with that. But my final problem has to do with 4.09 of the charter. And I looked at the requirements that we have for this position. They are basically the same requirements that we had the last time when our city attorney told us we couldn't do it. And when I looked it over, if you look at all the crossouts I have, you'll see that I had to take a whole lot of duties and out of this particular document that I was giving on the requirements for the position. Therefore, I am not in favor of creating the position of a research and budget personnel for the office for the three reasons I gave. But I think it is important for the city to move forward. I think it's important for the city to have a budget. Therefore, despite my problems with this particular portion of the budget, I will be voting for the budget. But I do believe that we have to change these requirements because they are against the charter. 4.09 does not allow us to have an attorney and a personal attorney who will give us personal legal advice. And therefore, again, I ask when the position becomes, and I'm sure because the other councilmen disagree with me on this issue, when this position comes into effect, I ask them to please be very careful with what they approve to make sure that we are in compliance with the charter and that we work together. I also thought it would have been better to wait till the new council comes in. Many of us are not going to be on the council. We don't know who will be and who won't be. And we are also, again, taking money that we really don't have to create a position which perhaps the new council might not even want. And so, again, I am not in favor of it, but I will be voting for the budget. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your listening to me.
Thank you, Councilwoman DeFrancis. Councilman Reyno, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm the one that asked for that position, and I'm going to tell you my feelings on it. First of all, the council is a separate branch of government. Second of all, we did a charter change that passed. Over almost 80% of the people wanted us to look at contracts. We have a lot more work that we have to do in order to look at those contracts, anything over $100,000. So we need the additional assistance in that office. And if you look at this budget, there are other departments that have added people or changed things around, but basically added another position. And as a separate branch of government, I believe we're entitled to it. When I looked at the charter, it basically said that we can have up to 5 people to do, research, and I think we need it, and I think most of us all agreed. So, thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, please vote to approve.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 9B is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 11,538, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into lease agreements for the use of Veterans Memorial Boulevard right-of-way by adjacent property owners.
Motion by Councilman Stagney, second by Councilman Carroll, to open a public hearing. Please vote. We're now in a public hearing to discuss.
One more
some-
vote? I'm sorry, one more vote.
Can't.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
We're now in a public hearing to hear summary ordinance number 11,538. If there's anyone from the audience that wishes to come and speak, please come forth at this time. I'm going to give him the floor. Okay, motion to approve by Councilman,
This is your motion to close.
motion to close by Councilman Stagney, second by Councilman Carroll. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
Motion to approve by Councilman Stagney, second by Councilman Carroll. Councilman Stagney, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Probably for 5 or 6 years, when Jefferson Parish started their program of leasing out their right-of-ways, returning that money back into beautifying that right-of-way, they bonded out that money, did extensive changes that has made Veterans Boulevard the envy of many boulevards. Beautiful art, beautification. 5 or 6 years ago, we were looking at it. The mayor, when he ran, had spoke on it, and Mr. Conley's been working on it for quite a while. It's something that I think we need to do because many of the businesses that are adjacent to Veterans Boulevard in the city of Kenner are using the right-of-ways, and legally, we're supposed to be collecting something for that. And we actually had Mr. Conley look into it, and he said it was quite complex, so he went to the former city attorney for the city of Kenner, Mr. Mike Power. And Mike, I'd like you to come up if you can and tell us a little bit about this ordinance to authorize the mayor to negotiate lease agreements for the right-of-ways. And welcome back, Mr. Power.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see everyone again. See a lot of old friends and see some new people whose faces
You
people
see a lot of
have
old
not
people
yet.
with new faces too, don't you?
I was approached by the city attorney a few months ago, probably in late 2012, to begin looking at the possibility of accomplishing what this ordinance sets out to do. Our initial investigation led us to have lengthy discussions with the parish attorney's office because they have a special zoning district that covers boulevards throughout Jefferson Parish, in particular veterans, where the funds were used, as Mr. Stagney said, they were used exclusively for beautification of the Veterans Corridor and for those people who were using the right-of-way. Not everyone agrees to that. Certainly everyone leases their property from Jefferson Parish, but they were allowed to, in lieu of paying rent, do the beautification. And a lot of them, in lieu of paying rent or for reduced rent, rent reductions, performed their own beautifications that was subject to approval by the parish. We then approached the planning director, J.A. Bear, to consider the possibility of creating such an overlay zoning district in Kenner. It was Mr. Abair's opinion, and I'm not speaking for him, he can certainly speak for himself, that an overlay zone is probably not the thing to do in Kenner, that we certainly need, the city certainly needs to be compensated for use of public property by private individuals and businesses. And as a consequence, this ordinance was drafted, which does not create overlay. It didn't dedicate anything. I understand it may be amended later, but it simply allows the city to be compensated for the use of its property by private individuals and businesses. We have initially looked at veterans from the city limits to Williams Boulevard. We have not looked past Williams Boulevard, not further west, and have not looked at any other corridors. So this is directed only toward veterans. We have identified quite a few people who are utilizing the right-of-way between the city limit, between Metairie, Kenner city limit, and Williams. There are probably more when you go further west. We are presently trying to identify those people, obtain surveys of their property from their titles. We have not expended any money to do surveying or anything else at this time, although it is a distinct possibility that a survey may be required at some point. We're not recommending anything further right now. I say we, I'm working with John Becknell, who's the son of Bill Becknell, who's been before you probably more than me lately, which is okay with me. Once this ordinance is approved, those property owners will be identified and notified after we have obtained an appraisal. What Jefferson Parish did was obtain more or less sample appraisals of blocks of property. They would select one property, have a licensed real estate appraiser perform an appraisal, and then apply that square footage value, that rental value, to adjacent properties similarly situated with the same zoning. And that's what we hope to do here. Rather than obtain 35 individual appraisals, we think one or two will do, and that the numbers can be used for other adjacent properties. And that's where we stand right now. We're still obtaining title information. We've learned that there are some office condominiums that utilize the veterans right-of-way for parking. We're still trying to identify those individual owners, and there's also an owner that uses another right-of-way at the corner of Roosevelt and Veterans. So as soon as we identify those people, we'll perform the appraisal and then approach the property owners. And they can talk to their tenants or however they want to handle it, but the owner is the one responsible ultimately for compensation to the city for using public property.
Thank you, Mr. Power. Great job on this legislation. This has been a long time coming, so I appreciate all your help with this. This is going to go along with the beautification that we're doing along all the other major corridors, and will be very helpful to the aesthetics of our city. And as you said, the Jefferson Parish did it through their CPZ, and they did an overlay. It's very difficult for us to do that when Williams Boulevard is owned by the state, and we have some issues on the right-of-ways there. So this will aesthetically be much more pleasing to street travelers or the vehicles going along the roadways. Go ahead, you wanted to say something.
I just wanted to state for the purposes of the council, if you know of other corridors where similar problems exist, the main corridors in Kenner, of course, are state highways, Airline, Williams Boulevard, most of Williams Boulevard, not all of it. But as far as commercial development, it's mainly veterans. But if you know of others, I urge you to contact the city attorney and let him know, and we'll look into more. This pertains only to veterans at this time.
Well, we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
I've passed out actually two amendments. I apologize, they're handwritten, but the first one's very simple. Where the money will be collected is on Veterans Highway, and even if this extends further west than Williams Boulevard, where the money's collected, it would go back into the beautification for that area. That way they have an amount of money that they could bond out later, knowing the revenues that they're getting, to do a lot of beautification at one time if they need to. So in Section 3, where it says program and corridor enhancement, remove the period and put on Veterans Boulevard. So essentially, that is dedicating the money to Veterans Boulevard. And if I can get a second on that, then I'll go to the second amendment.
Okay. Motion by Councilman Stagney, second by Councilman Denopoulos on the amendment. Does everybody understand that amendment? Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
Now, back to the original legislation. Councilman Stagney, did you wish to, okay. Now you have it.
Thank you, Madam President. The next amendment is Section 4, that any lease agreement must be ratified by a majority vote of the council. So this legislation would authorize the mayor to go out and perform negotiating the lease, get people on board, get the appraisals, as Mr. Power has said. It is important that this body and this administration show the general public that nobody can accuse this administration or this council of giving a sweetheart deal to anybody. If we do it by ordinance and it has to come back before us, because the charter requires a lease by ordinance, when it comes back to us, that has to be published automatically in the paper, so you have some transparency there. The general public has an idea of what we're paying for it, what they're paying for it, the revenues we're receiving, and everything is above board and out to the public, and that's the purpose of Section 4, that it comes back before us, you would have those advertising requirements already in place because of our charter language.
A motion by Councilman Stagney, second by Councilwoman DeFrancis. She beat you out, kid. And so does anybody want to speak on that besides Mr. Hebert?
Yes, ma'am. And just to follow up to Councilman Stagney, is that by ordinance, the leasing or sale of city-owned property does have to go through a public hearing process, so it would go before you guys.
So when that comes up, it's going to have to lay over for 28 days? Because is that a layover special, like a zoning change or something like that?
Alienation requires a 28-day layover.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hebert. Okay, does everybody understand this Second Amendment? Please vote. Oh, wait, Councilman Carroll, did you? Okay. On the amendment, please vote. Y'all driving me crazy tonight. There you go. Everybody's
Madam
vote.
Chairman, motion passes 7-0 on the amendment.
On back to the original legislation. Councilman Denopoulos, you have your light on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is good legislation. You already have, a proven track record on Veterans Highway, and, and we are part of Jefferson Parish, and, we've already seen what these kind of programs have done to Veterans Highway. And I have absolutely no problems with the amendments that get put on. I think the money needs to stay in the area for the beautification. That's a major, thoroughfare. You have some major businesses. You got Home Depot. You got, Ray Brandt. You got, you have Best Chevrolet and Peak BMW. You have some major businesses out there that, that probably would look very closely at what this city can do as far as giving them some access to this leased land that we have by the city. So I'm in favor of this. I've seen what it's done, further down, further east on veterans. So hopefully we can have that same, beautification in that corridor as well. So this is good legislation, Joe, and a good job, Mr. Mike Powers, in bringing this ordinance to us. Thank you.
Councilman Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And I too will be supporting this. I was not on the council when this was addressed many years ago with Mr. Power and Jeannie. But, from their hard work and due diligence, obviously, this is something that the city of Kenner will benefit from. Right now, it will stop at Williams Boulevard. And as we all know, District 1 and District 2 has all of the corridor from Roosevelt to the end to the parish line, which ends in District 1. This particular legislation will stop at Williams Boulevard, but I have had an opportunity just to unscientifically ask some of the property owners on west of Williams, this is not for us right now, but you understand if it's successful east of you guys, what's your feeling about this? Obviously, nobody wants to pay more money, but they understand that with additional funds that we have to make the property look well, it will increase their property. They also understand that it is important for them to be able to advertise on those right-of-ways. It increases their business. So do they want to pay more? No. But do they understand that they cannot use the excuse that larger businesses like Home Depot and Walmart, who sometimes feel they're the big brother and they're getting left out, I think now they understand if they're part of the equation, everything, high tide rises all ship, like my grandmother used to say, and they will be part of that. So we look forward for this passing through and also looking forward to what will happen west of Williams Boulevard. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. And it goes without saying, this is huge. This is huge for the city, and I'm sorry that we didn't do it sooner. And it's always nice to see my old friend Mike Power. We've been through thick and thin in regards to councilmatic duties, and he's always been very reliable, and I feel like he's done an excellent job on this also. So I'm very happy to support this, and I think that it's a long time coming, and it's a good thing. So without Councilman Stagney, you wish to close?
Just to close, Madam President, again, I'd like to thank the city attorney and Mr. Powell, the former city attorney, for his effort in this. In my reading, and I think that they were cognizant of this, is that while we are looking at everything from Williams Boulevard to the line going east, the way the legislation is written, it also applies to everything west of Williams Boulevard. So when Mr. Carroll and some of those businesses and landowners in that area, this legislation will cover that area of veterans too. So it's all of Veterans Boulevard within the city limits of Kenner. I think this body will be very proud of this legislation in years to come. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. And hearing no other discussion, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 9C is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 11,539, an ordinance adopting the capital budget for the city of Kenner for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2013, and ending June 30th, 2014.
Motion by Councilman Brannigan, second by Councilwoman Black, to open a public hearing. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
We're now in a public hearing to discuss summary ordinance number 11,539. If there's anyone from the audience that wishes to come and address the council, please come forth now. Motion by Councilman Brannigan, second by Councilman Black, to close the public hearing. Motion by Councilman Brannigan.
One more
second-
vote to close, please. Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0 to close your hearing.
Okay. Motion by Councilman Brannigan, second by Councilman Black, to approve. Hearing no other discussion, please vote. Oh, Councilman Stagney, just put his light on. I thought that was impossible.
Thank you, Madam President. We're on the capital budget, which is a total of $2.1 million that addresses infrastructure in districts 1 through 5 and a number of other areas. Veterans Boulevard resurfacing and bridge replacement, drainage improvements in University City and Audubon, and Williams Boulevard pedestrian improvements. They also have in the budget storm shutters for emergency operation centers for $130,000. And, you know, if I prioritize what I would want, storm shutters are good during the storm, and that whole building has gone from initially having $500,000 up to $1 million, $1.7 million, and above that. In the budget hearings this year and last year in budget negotiations, Public Works has asked for an asphalt roller, an asphalt grinder, and a trailer to go with that. That's about $130,000. And if as Mr. Reno had said before, if you look at what you do in your family, certainly you would not look at the windows and get hurricane windows before you address the vehicles that you use day in and day out. And all the district councilmen need this type of equipment to help repairs in their area. And if I had to pick which one was more of a priority, I would say that Public Works equipment is a bigger priority. And I know we're going to use recreation, I know we're going to use bond money when it becomes available for recreation equipment and Public Works equipment and some other equipment. It's going to be so voluminous, the amount of equipment we need. I want to get on the record so that Public Works can go forth and start bidding out for this asphalt equipment. I'd like to put a motion on the floor that we substitute the storm shutters for $130,000 for the Public Works equipment for $130,000.
We have an amendment on the floor by Councilman Stagney, second by Councilman Dinopoulos. Mayor Yenny, did you wish to, you have the floor.
Thank you. You know, any other given June, I might agree with Councilman Stagney, but being that there is a tropical storm going to Florida right now in the Gulf, this early in the season. I have concerns about that. And it's amazing to me that in 2007, when I asked Councilman Stagney, oh, can we buy equipment? We're in much need of equipment, back when we had surplus money to spend on equipment. Monies that came in after Katrina, that revenue, where we could have just used it on equipment. No, 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 no. We need to split it up and put it in the districts. We need bricks and mortar, bricks and mortar. Well, he was right. We need bricks and mortar. Since that time, when you deal with just taking the bond issue, the new bond issue we're trying to get, and the storage bond issue, and the other revenue we've gotten, the loan money, this city has spent will be spending over $130 million on capital. It is my intention to use some of that bond money that we're about to get to spend about $500,000 or $600,000 on much-needed equipment for this city. So,
Would you say that again, please? I got distracted.
it is my intention to use about $500,000 to $600,000 of that additional bond money that we're getting, because we got such a good rating on the bond issue. It freed up an additional $3 million. It is my intention to use that money to buy all the necessary equipment we need. I've been waiting on this equipment since 2007. I can wait a little bit longer to make sure my employees are protected during storms. And God forbid, we hope we don't get one, but if we do, I believe it's an absolute priority to protect those employees in Building D. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Brannigan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Okay, I do not want to get in the middle of whatever this is, but I want to make a few logical points and see if this kind of stimulates some sort of logic to coming to an end on this. First of all, I don't know who would be best to answer this, so whoever you choose. When is the money going to be available to buy whatever equipment it is that is necessary?
I can tell you that we could not go out and rate any of the bonds or do any of the issuances because of pending litigation. So as soon as we clean that up, then, I'd have to find out how long. Duke might be able to know once we get.
Speak a little louder, please.
He said, I don't know.
Once there's a last piece of legislation to refinance the bonds is on first reading tonight. What we're hoping is that lawsuit is out of the way for 2 weeks from now, in which case that legislation can be approved. If that happens, we would have that money probably in early July.
Okay, and the equipment that we're talking about purchasing, it's something that's needed, and obviously there's a need for it, but before July?
No, I mean, they have equipment that they're using right now. It's equipment's old, and they obviously want to replace it, but they have equipment that they're using right now.
Okay, so, look, I mean.
I mean, the new budget don't take effect until July either. I mean, so.
So the money that would be approving tonight would be available at the exact same time that the other money?
Well, this budget becomes effective July 1st, so that's when the money would be available under this budget. We're anticipating that the bond money would be available in early July also.
So if both of the monies are going to be available at the same time, I don't understand the wisdom one way or the other, honestly, to be honest with you. And look, I mean, there is some logic to, we're in the middle of hurricane season, we're getting ready to go into hurricane season, but if the money's going to be available in July at the same time that the bond money, to me, it's one half dozen of the other. And that's why I'm saying this is not something that I feel like fighting over, because it doesn't seem like it's that important. It seems like it's all the same.
No, the litigation is obviously out there, so, that has to be resolved, but what we're hearing is that it should be resolved very quickly.
Okay, I don't know if that shed any light on anything other than to say that it's the same amount of money coming available almost at the exact same time. I don't understand what the tug of war is about the issues, to be honest with you. And I really don't know which way I vote. I'm hoping somebody else says something that makes a lot more sense than what I'm hearing is in terms of either project. So, thank you. Anybody else speaking? Please tell me somebody else speaking. Thank you.
Duke McConnell, you have the floor.
What's the question?
Oh, you done? Because you.
No, I had answered her question. I was turning mine off.
I'll clear you. Councilman Denopoulos, you have the floor.
All right. Well, I mean, maybe I can help you here, Councilwoman Brannigan. I guess if we dedicate the $130,000 to this equipment. It's dedicated, it's in the budget, we know it's going to be spent on this equipment. The $400,000 or $500,000 that we're going to get from capital, from the, from bonding out, that's not dedicated. We don't even know what the $500 is being used for right now. It's not being stipulated. There's nothing that the mayor's brought to us as saying, this is how I'm going to spend $500,000 with equipment. So, like it is 6 and a half a dozen the other, but at least in this, it's dedicated to buy that machinery which is needed now, okay? So it's not going to affect getting storm shutters on that building. We're just taking the 130 and we're going to put it towards buying that equipment for Public Works. I mean, if you've been to Public Works lately, look at the equipment, look at what we're working with in the city, and then when we have the bonds out, then let them restore the $130,000 to the shutters. And I understand the Councilman, Councilman Carroll's, issues with a lot of asphalt in his district. I understand, Councilman Stagney with a lot of asphalt in his district. They need this equipment. I have a lot of asphalt too. I mean, I have, Joe Yenny. I have parts of, San Antonio Boulevard. I have, actually right now I'm putting asphalt in University City because of the expense of concrete. So I need this equipment as well. So this is how we clarify it. We're just dedicating the money at this point in time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Denopoulos. Councilman Reno, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question for the mayor. Mayor, basically you're saying that you're guaranteeing that this piece of equipment or this equipment that Public Works needs will be paid for with the additional money that we're getting from the bonds.
I said it twice for Ms. Black.
You committing to that?
I am, yes.
Okay. And then my second question is for Mr. Gonzalez. Is this something that's going to really affect you in the next 30 to 60 days or 90 days? Would it make a big difference to your department, and if so, why?
As far as the equipment, the equipment is pretty much in life support right now. It's antique. Well, we're making it work, okay? When we make it work for the next 30 or 60 days, sure, we can make it work for the next 30 or 60 days.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman DeFrancis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Gonzalez, you and I and a few other people have had meetings about this, and we've made commitments to you, have we not, that we will be supporting the mayor and supporting the Public Works Department to make sure they not only get money for this particular equipment about which we are speaking at this time, but all of the additional equipment that Public Works truly, truly needs to be effective. Have you not had our commitment, at least from some of us, to make sure we support you
Yes,
in
ma'am.
this endeavor?
Yes.
And I believe that people know we keep our word on this council. And we will be supporting you. We will be supporting the mayor. I just think we have to do it the right way. The extra money we're going to get through the bonds, in fact, I'm hoping, Mayor, we're going to spend more than the $400,000 to $500,000 for equipment. I think we looked at what the potential is for the additional revenue we'll be getting from those bonds, and I think we have to make sure that we use it wisely and that we make sure that Public Works has all the equipment it needs to make sure that the people of Kenner get the kind of services they're entitled to. Thank you.
Councilman Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And I too was like Councilwoman Brannigan, trying to decide, one way or another, does it really make a difference? And none of us, and I appreciate the mayor concerned about the employees that work in that building, because obviously that is priority over everything. This is the beginning of hurricane season. We're not God. We don't know how things are going to happen between now and we do know September historically have been a bad month for us. I also know that in District 1, and I want to thank Councilman Denopoulos for chiming in again on that before I even said anything. Most of our streets are asphalt, and there's no getting around that. That's what the majority of our streets are. It's good to hear that the mayor has dedicated getting this equipment early on, but my concern, we're not sure about the litigation, what's going to happen with that. That is a concern of mine, and if I have to weigh on one side or the other, because I don't know, then obviously I would want to make sure that it's dedicated without any hiccups or anything. So that's the position I'm taking, that just to make sure that this equipment won't have anything to stop it, that is the side I'm gonna lead on. I'm not doing it above safety, obviously, but I'm just gonna keep my fingers crossed and hope that everything will balance out at the same time. But for right now, to ensure that this equipment, and Mr. Gonzalez and his crew, Mr. Dylan Carford, do a lot with what they have with the antiquated equipment, but I'm sure it would be a whole lot better, because there are some projects now that I think it would save money by having this additional equipment as opposed to going out for our bids. So based on the economics, based on the safety, that's pretty much where I believe that to get it dedicated tonight would be something good for us. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Mayor, Duke or whomever, if Mr. Dinopoulos was saying that we go ahead and we allocate the money now so that we could say, it would expedite it, we could save some time and getting things ready, they could go out for bid and stuff. Can you go out for bid for something that when the money isn't actually there, you're just putting it out there? Is it possible that you can go out for bid without the money being in place, just simply because you have something?
Well, if the money's budgeted, you can start the process. Obviously, you can only go part of the way through the process till the money becomes effective, you know.
But then again,
You
the
can
mayor
put checks
said,
together and stuff like that. I mean,
but then, as Ms. Brannigan said, they're both going to coincide at the same time. I don't believe that there's no reason to be arguing over something like this when both of the things can be accomplished, and they're both going to be accomplished simultaneously.
And Jeannie, just to clarify, I feel like this is like deja vu, because at the last council meeting, when the storm shutter money was taken away from us, and we only got a portion of it, I committed back then to doing an asphalt roller, what is it called?
It's three
Asphalt roller and spreader in the bond issue money, of which I'm still committing to do. It just took us some time to get the bond issue to where it was so that we got it approved to move forward with it, and now we have another speed bump in the road, but I committed a year ago to do the same thing. But I had storm shutter money removed away from us last year, and yes, it takes time to spec everything out, including the shutters. There's no question.
And all of our vital employees are going to be at this is our Hurricane Protection Center where all of our vital staff has, and they're going to have, and it has glass, and we're not going to have any shutters on it. I think it's really foolish for us to even be arguing over something that is going to, both can be accomplished. And, you know, as Public Works knows, I have always been dedicated. When we even built the Public Works building, moved it from that rat trap we had over there.
Hey, be
I
careful,
supported the funding.
recreation's still in a rat trap.
You put some traps out, okay?
That's right.
And made it better. So you tried. But what I'm saying is, I just think this is so ridiculous to even be discussing, because there's enough money for both of these projects to be awarded. And so I just don't understand it. Councilman Carroll, would you move your cue so that I can give it to Councilman Stagney? It's a close, I assume. Is that right, on amendment? Councilman Stagney.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't think it's so ridiculous. I'm going to go back. The mayor finds it amazing that in 2007 that we didn't want to get equipment. I want everybody to rewind their memory, because our communities were in shambles. Shambles. There were trailers all over this city. Our streets were in deplorable condition. When we came to the compromise in the budget back then, as a refresher, we dedicated the money that was being used into the community that affected our citizens on a daily basis to repair some gymnasiums where our children played. That was important back then, more important than some equipment at that time. So it was a priority to spend that money in the community. Now, last year, the mayor gave a guarantee. Last year, we got a guarantee. Mr. Reno was in the meeting. The guarantee was that by this time this year, we would have all of that equipment. We were going to have the bond done. Well, it didn't get done. Things happen, Mayor. You know it, and I know it. Now, I don't know what crystal ball we have, but there is a lawsuit. Now, I hope we win, and we win quickly. But what if we don't? What if we don't? This is this body's only chance to say that those pieces of equipment are dedicated. We get no other shot. If by some chance, and look, it might not be 30 to 60 days. Mr. Connolly, when is the court date?
Right now, there's a date in August.
All right, so it's August something. Mr. McConnell said we might have the money in July. We're going to get the money at the same time. That's what we've been told. We don't know that. If we don't dedicate this right now in the capital budget, look, if the citizens group or whatever, if they prevail, we lost it. He's not going out any more money. Then it goes on the ballot. How long is that going to take? I'm asking our colleagues to reward this department who goes to work on a daily basis, taking care of the streets that we drive, that our citizens drive. That's being used on a daily basis. We're talking about storm shutters, what is not being used on a daily basis. As Mr. Keith Reno said, think about how your family would do it. Certainly you wouldn't go get hurricane windows when you have vehicles that need to be used on a daily basis that take care of what you do on a daily basis. That's what's happening here. And there's nothing else besides let's make sure that this is in our budget so that this equipment can be bought. Later, if we happen to get the bond money, whenever that may be, then we can look to alter some things. But if it's in the budget, we know for sure that it's dedicated. I mean, I can't tell the future, but I can tell you right now, this was a guarantee last year at this time, and it didn't happen. And look, not because the mayor didn't want it to happen, things happen. And things may happen after we vote on this budget. I believe it's imperative that we reward that department and reward our citizens by doing it now. If we have to move money around later, look, let's do that. But that's after we know for sure we've already won the lawsuit that everybody feels very confident in, but we don't know that for sure. Anyway, I'm asking for my colleagues' support on this amendment. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Conley has his light on, and you're supposed to be allowed to
Oh, no,
close,
no,
so.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I
all right.
failed to turn it off.
All right. So on the amendment, would you like to repeat that amendment so that everybody knows exactly what we're talking about? Mr. Stagney, or who has the amendment?
We're just striking storm shutters for emergency operations center and putting public works equipment.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, hearing no other discussion on the amendment, please vote on the amendment.
Madam Chairman, motion fails 4-3. Council members Black, Reno, Brannigan, and DeFranchis are opposed.
Now, back to the original legislation. Can you clear the board, please?
One moment.
Back to the original legislation. Hearing no discussion. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 9D is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 11,540, an ordinance authorizing a public hearing to approve an amendment to the 2011-2012 capital budget to reallocate $115,000 from the Westgate Drainage Improvement Project to the Bertha Lee Jackson Basketball Court Enhancement Project for the Department of Community Development.
Motion by Councilwoman Black, second by motion by Councilman Stagney, second by Councilman Carroll, to open a public hearing. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
We're now in a public hearing to discuss summary ordinance number 11,540. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to discuss this matter, please come forward now. Motion to close by Councilman Stagney, second by Councilman Carroll. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0.
Motion to approve by Councilman Stagney, second by Councilman Carroll. Councilman Stagney, you have the floor.
Madam President, if we can change the motion to Councilman Carroll, second by Councilman Stagney, and let Councilman Carroll open, and then I'll speak.
Certainly, I'll be glad to. Can you get that, the reverse the motions, please. Councilman Carroll, second by Councilman Stagney. Councilman Carroll, you had the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And we spoke about this before, once when Mr. Terrell was here, and just to clear up some clarifications, that we were not taking money away from the Westgate community. And if she would please step up to the mic to confirm this once again, just to make it clear for everyone that we're not doing this.
Thank you. Thank goodness for the Westgate project and it being CDBG eligible, but you're absolutely right. It's more or less of a bookkeeping in-house transaction. It was an effort made to, I guess, advance funds for the Westgate project from the Bertha Lee project in an effort to expend CDBG monies timely, and this is to put the money back in the Bertha Lee project. So it was basically a wash. There was no money taken, literally taken or reduced from either one of the projects. It's basically a transaction.
Thank you, Mr. Terrell, and I appreciate you coming up again to explain that. And once
Yes.
again, this is part of our going forward to ensure that we spend the money on a timely manner.
Absolutely.
And we've started that, and your department has started that, and we look forward to the future where we won't have to, juggle back and forth
Yes.
with this. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Councilman Stagney, you had the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It was just to say similarly that this money has already been spent in Westgate. We spent well over $500,000 on drainage. $115,000 did come from CDBG money. More than that over a period of time, but in that one, and that money was advanced to us because we had a contract pending, we had to get the work done, and so this is simply putting the money back so that it can be done at the Bertha Lee Jackson.
Right.
So I appreciate your help in making all of that work, since, our work is done, but again, and even a colleague had asked me, you giving up money? No. I don't want the general public to think that. I know my colleagues do not think that. Thank you, Madam President.
Right.
Thank you.
And I also like to commend Public Works because they worked real closely with the contract to get the work done in a timely manner. So I appreciate their efforts too. Thank you.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 10 is opening of bids.
We have
none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. Item 12A is summary ordinance number 11,550. An ordinance authorizing the purchase of Lot 19A, Square 9, Beachview Heights, Kenner, Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, as well as a portion of a property adjacent to said Lot 19A. Madam Chairman, we've received a request from the mayor to defer this for one meeting.
Motion by Councilman Brannigan, second by Councilman Black for one meeting deferral. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution appointing Marlon Gonzalez to the City of Kenner Historic District Commission, filling the unexpired term of Molly Block.
Motion by Councilman Reynaud, second by Councilman Carroll. Councilman Reynaud, did you have? Well, I just know Mr. Guzman is a resident of District 3. He's been very active in his community. He's retired from Bow Brothers, and I know I talked to him the other day. He's very happy to be able to serve on this committee, and I know that he will do an excellent job. So we appreciate him volunteering, and we feel confident that he is a good person for it. Councilman Carroll, did you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam President, and I would like to thank Mr. Gonzalez for joining the Historic District, but you will have some big shoes to fill, and at this point, the person that you're taking is Miss Molly Block, a icon in South Kenner. As a little boy myself growing up, her and her husband, Mr. Russell Block, have owned property in that area for as long as Jeannie's is, been around with their friends. So, and Jeannie knew her much better than I did, which is a compliment to both of them. So, welcome aboard, but Miss Block was involved, the Italian committee, and all these different things. And we've missed her. I'm sure she's in a better place right now. And we look forward for you to support even as half as much as Ms. Block and all of her support for this, not only for South Kenner, but the city of Kenner. Thank you, Madam
Thank
President.
you, and I'm glad you said that, because we all, Old Town members of, longtime residents, not Old Town, longtime residents of District 1 can remember Block's department store, and they were always involved in the community, so we do miss her. Thank you very much. Hearing no other discussion, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 13B is a resolution selecting the Times-Picayune as the official journal of the City of Kenner for the fiscal year 2013-2014.
Motion by Councilman Brannigan, second by Councilman Black. Please vote. Oh, certainly. Ms. Brannigan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wanted to ask our council clerk, with the cutting back of the publication days, is this causing any delays or hardships with our advertising of things to be voted on and laid over, and it is?
Yes, ma'am, it does. They've actually moved our publication date up a day. It used to be on Thursdays. Well, now it's on Wednesdays. And it does cause a hardship if we don't get everything to them the night of the council meeting. If not that night, very first thing the next morning, it won't get advertised until the following week. So yes, it does tend to cause a hardship, but I believe our purchasing department, we've looked at different avenues at the Advocate and different things, but they've determined that the official journal would be best with Times-Picayune. Teresa could probably answer that question, but yeah, it does cause hardship on us.
Well, because it came to my attention, I'm doing a sale on a house that's a succession, and the Times-Picayune had always been the official journal, I believe. Or maybe it was, yeah, it had to be the Times-Picayune. And whatever court they're going through now allows for Gambit or another city business, another venue to do advertising so that there isn't any more delays. So I wondered if that was something that we could consider an alternate to, or if we have to choose one journal, or what is the stipulation for picking an official journal? Do you know?
I wasn't involved in this, but I mean, it's usually, I thought they had to have a daily publication in the parish or surrounding parish where you know the Judson Parish Sheriff's Office.
It probably has to have a certain distribution? maybe,
Yes, you
too?
have to have certain people that you distribute to, and I'm not quite certain to quote it right now, but there is some guidelines. And I do know we're under a deadline right now that we have to select an official journal according to the state. So I think we're on a deadline of, we really should pass this because we have to get it to the state stating who our official journal
So
is.
do we send out asking for people to bid on it, or we just call around and get people's prices? And because I would be interested in knowing if we could, even if it's for the future, even if this has to happen now, if we can look at alternate publications, not to not use them, but to have a choice when it comes to timing of things, because if they are, change their publication dates again, it could certainly affect us, and it would be nice if we had an alternate in the event, or maybe that the ways that our meetings fall don't necessarily jive with their deadlines either, and so another publication, the deadlines may be different, that would work better for us. But just, I guess my question is, can we have an alternate at the same time as having an official journal? And if so, can we explore who that could be?
The purchasing director, I believe, would have to answer that. She's the one who does the bidding process and
Okay.
went out for the proposals and stuff.
I think we're just going to put a mic on your chair. There's always some drama. Oh, is there a mic on? Just, no.
Yes, we can have an alternate. According to the public bid law, it says that the official journal has to be published within your city, parish. If it's not, it can be an adjacent parish or city, which Times-Picayune does that because it's in Orleans Parish. We don't have anything that's here, that's published here.
Okay, so
The parish used city business. Now they use the Times-Picayune.
what about the parish courts? They're the same thing?
Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Department uses Times-Picayune.
Okay,
just
this
checked
was
online.
advertising for a succession specifically, and they were able to move up the amount, because they have to publish, they have to lay over a certain amount of days, and they have to publish again, so if there's any heirs that want to make claim, and it has to lay over a certain number of days.
I don't know what the.
And by using an alternate person who was, then they were able to move the deadline up because of the publication deadlines.
I don't know what the courts use.
Okay.
I do know that there's also stipulation, you've got to have so many, there's a certain circulation number you have to
Right.
have. We have free papers.
The succession being advertised, that's a legal notice. That's what the civil code articles
Right.
require for a succession. We're following with the governmental statutes that deal with how we have to advertise our legislation and bid packages and things of that nature. It's very specific as to publication, use.
Can't hear you. You need to get closer to the mic there.
It's on, you just weren't close
Okay.
enough.
Just pull it closer to you.
So that's how that.
That's,
You told me at the end. When you're dealing with legal notices for successions and civil matters, that's dealt with by the Civil Code of Procedures, and you can use a legal notice in any publication or journal. When you're dealing with municipalities and political subdivisions doing their bids and advertising the legislation, the statute's pretty clear with the requirements as to what all the proposers have to follow.
and it has to be, we have to name one, but we can't
Well, I'll
have.
check into that, but I think you can only have one official journal.
Okay, because, again, my concern, and that was something we would have never thought of in the past, is that if the company that we chooses to change their publication dates, it could change how we do business.
Right.
And without us, it's just an arbitrary thing that we would not have control over. But if we were allowed to have an alternate, it may be a good idea for us to explore that. We're not. I'm being nodded.
We did a little bit of research on this yesterday after the agenda meeting, and the law doesn't speak to alternates. Jefferson Parish is allowed to have an East Bank official journal and a West Bank official journal, but the city is to select an official journal. The law says nothing about an alternate.
Okay, so if in midstream of choosing them, they change their publication dates, can we then change who our official journal is? Or I'm understanding we're on some deadline to do so.
Well, I'd have to look into it. I mean,
Okay, well, I think it would be something for us to know, because we could have never predicted that there would not
well,
be a
there's
daily
another-
publication.
There's another viable alternative that's coming into the market that is going to be, from what I understand, published locally, so there'll be some competition in that regard. But, I
No, we
mean, I
can't,
think
she
we
says
have to
we're up
do
against the
this.
deadline.
I think we have to do this today. I'm talking
But it has to be to the state prior to July 1st. We have to give them our official, document stating who our official journal is prior to then.
And we have to vote on, it has to lay over in the proper amount of times to meet that deadline?
Well, the resolution would have to be advertised in the paper for it to become
Gotcha.
effective, and then we have to
Yeah,
state to them
okay.
who our official journal.
All right, so that's just what my mindset was in asking those questions, is that if something does change and the person that we choose, of what authority do we have to change that midstream? And I guess the second part was answered, that we don't have the authority to engage another person at the same, simultaneously, but if we had to change, we should look at what our choices are. Right, okay.
Thank you. Councilman Denopoulos, you have the floor.
This is a question for the legal department. I'm just kind of curious here. The circulation of the paper is going down. It's been going down for years. It's across the country, yet use on the internet is going up every day. Why don't we petition since this is a state law, correct?
Yep.
Why don't we petition our state reps and ask them if we can have a website that all this, obviously the public can access. It would save us a ton of money, and more people are on the internet than they are getting newspapers. I know on my block that's the case. So circulation's going down, yet we have to meet this criteria, and the criteria basically is to make sure that enough the public sees what we're doing and what we're publishing. And well, it's the internet. So maybe we ought to talk to our legislators and see if they can get some sort of legislation up there, because we may not have a daily paper here in our town, okay? Some towns do, some towns don't. Maybe we ought to get some sort of a relief where we can just post it on our website, and you know, and that's where you get our journal.
Sounds good to me.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Connolly, your light is on. Did you wish to speak?
Just spoke.
Mr. Connolly? Okay, Councilman Stagney, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It's pretty clear in our charter that we have to select an official journal, and even if, and it says it in multiple sections, so, you know, that's a great idea, but I think we'd have to change our charter to even perform that simple, you know, private sector usually goes a lot faster than government, and that's one of the examples. So I think it's a good idea, but we would have to change sections of our charter to do that. And I think we need to move forward on this tonight because of the deadlines that we are up against right now. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, usually this is a cut and dry thing, but we had one question and it escalates into more, so please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 11,541, an ordinance authorizing a cooperative purchasing agreement with Genuine Parts Company doing business as NAPA for the purchase of automotive parts on an as-needed basis in accordance with Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office bid number 13B2201 and an amount not to exceed $150,000 annually for the Department of Fleet Management.
Motion by Councilwoman DeFrancis, second by Councilman Moreno. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 11,542, an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Riddle All-American in the amount of $9,719.32 to purchase of football equipment and uniforms for the 2013 season in accordance with telephone bid number T13-2016 for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Motion by Councilman DeFrancis, second by Councilman Denopoulos. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 11,543, an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from New Arrow Industries Incorporated, doing business as Arrow Fence, in the amount of $5,390 to furnish and install white vinyl privacy fencing at Seton Park on the corner of St. Elizabeth and Platt Streets in accordance with telephone bid number T13-2029 for the Department of Public Works.
Motion by Councilman Denopoulos, second by Councilwoman Brannigan. Councilman Denopoulos, you have the floor.
Ken, if you can come up and we can talk about this. 15C, this is obviously one of the many pocket parks that we have through the city, and this is the third time we're going to be changing this fence out.
Jerry's doing it.
Jerry, help me out here, brother. I'm sorry, I forget what parks you cover, and anyway, by the way.
So it gets confused.
Jerry, that's a nice haircut, by the way.
Thanks.
Listen, we need to probably, I'm going to go ahead and ask my colleagues to pass this tonight, but I'd like to sit down and talk to Arrow Fence or New Arrow, whoever the company that is a successful bidder, and see what, we may have a change order involved in this, to see what can be done to that fence to make it a little more storm-worthy.
I think
This is number 3. This is number 3 on this fence.
I think
okay?
you'd be surprised this time because we took the initiative. We're driving pilings this time, and we're putting up a chain wall.
Oh,
The fence is going to be on top of that.
Jerry, you never cease to amaze me, my friend. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hearing no other discussion, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15D, summary ordinance number 11,544, An ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from B&H Photo, Video, and Pro Audio Incorporated in the amount of $6,183.95 for the purchase of an HD camera and memory recording unit and a multi-format LCD monitor for Kenner TV in accordance with telephone bid number T13-2031 for the Department of Information Technology.
Motion
And
by Councilman
telecommunications.
Stagney, second by Councilman Carroll. Oh, excuse me? I knew it was one of you guys. Councilman Reno, second by Councilman Stagney. Sorry about that, Keith. I know you've been very instrumental in this, and it was a lapse of memory from there. But, in fact, did you wish to open on this? Because Councilman Denopoulos, you know, has something to say about. Go for it, buddy.
I was just going to thank Councilman Reno, you know, for this ordinance. That was all. I mean, basically, it's needed, and he pointed it out. It's his
He
baby. I don't know why he didn't want to talk about it, but
He certainly did. And
Techno, it's all yours, baby.
he deserves all the credit for this. Okay. Hearing no other discussion, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15E is summary ordinance number 11,545, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of MSA Product Evolution 5800 thermal imaging camera with X2 zoom and MSA vehicle charging kit 5000 series from Casco Industries Incorporated in the amount of $11,448.46, utilizing the City of New Orleans Material and Supply Agreement K12-714 with Casco Industries Incorporated. City bid proposal number 2510-00541 for the Kenner Fire Department.
I had, Mr. Francis had her light on first, so I'm going to make the motion, Councilwoman DeFrancis, second by Councilman Stagney. Councilman DeFrancis, did you wish to speak?
Thank you, Council President. Would our fire chief please come up to the mic, please?
Whoever he is.
You and I had spoken about this before, and I thought maybe you should explain to people exactly what this is and why we need it.
Sure. This is a technology that's been used for quite some time, probably 15, 20 years. It's used to locate people that are trapped inside of a building. It's used to find hot spots in the walls to prevent us from having to tear out a wall just to go check inside. It's a very good firefighting tool. It's a very good tool for saving lives.
And this was not technology. Many years ago, we didn't have these resources. Now we can save lives by having equipment such as this and making sure that we know our buildings have no people left in them when our firemen go in that they have to rescue, or, as you said, find those hot spots so we can quickly put out a fire. So this is really great technology that's going to be a true asset to our fire department.
Yeah, correct. And the technology has come a long way. I mean, you're almost looking at a 3D picture now, the way it comes out. And you can see the different temperatures. You actually have a readout what the temperature is on your screen that you're looking at.
I was really impressed when you and I spoke about it, and I spoke to some of the other firemen about it, and they told me exactly what they could do with this equipment. So I am totally in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman DeFrancis. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15F is summary ordinance number 11,546. An ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Red Hawk Fire and Security in the amount of $9,975 to furnish and install a fire alarm system at the City of Kenner-owned facility located at 421 Williams Boulevard in accordance with telephone bid number T13-2030 for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Motion by Councilman Carroll, second by Councilman Stagney. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15G is summary ordinance number 11,547, an ordinance ratifying the proposal from Ace American Insurance Company with an AM Best rating of A+ XV for commercial package liability insurance at a cost not to exceed $348,046 for the period of July 1st, 2013 through July 1st, 2014.
Motion by Councilman Brannigan, second by Councilman Black. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15H is summary ordinance number 11,548. An ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Messina's Incorporated for an annual contract to supply prisoner meals for the Kenner Police Department in accordance with sealed bid number 12-6118 at a cost not to exceed $125,000 annually and providing for related matters.
Motion by Councilman Stagney, second by Councilwoman DeFrancis. Councilman Stagney, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I just kept, for the motion, I put the let me speak, but I don't need to speak on the ordinance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no other discussion, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15I is summary ordinance number 11,551, an ordinance authorizing an increase in the maximum contract amount for the annual contract with Retief Oil and Fuel LLC regarding fuel purchases to an amount not to exceed $510,000 per year and to provide for related matters for the Department of Fleet Management.
Motion by Councilwoman Brannigan, second by Councilwoman DeFrancis. Hearing no discussion, please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 15J is a resolution authorizing an amendment to the Cooperative Endeavor Agreement between the City of Kenner and the Parish of Jefferson for long-term community recovery program funds and providing for related matters.
Motion by Councilman Brannigan, second by Councilwoman Black. Please vote.
Madam Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Excuse me. Item 16A is an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Silver Screen Rentals in the amount of $9,585.52 for the purchase of 14 10x10 pop-up tents to be used at special events in accordance with telephone bid number T13-2044 for the Kenner Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16B is an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Sport Court of Arkansas in the amount of $73,029.50 to replace gymnasium flooring at Wentwood Gymnasium in accordance with sealed bid number 13-6138 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16C is an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received for an annual contract to supply the City of Kenner with fuel and associated fuel monitoring system in accordance with sealed bid number 13-6152 in an amount not to exceed $550,000 per year for the Department of Fleet Management. Item 16D is an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Acadian Plumbing and Drain LLC in the amount of $5,045 for the repair of plumbing under City Hall, Building D, in accordance with telephone bid number T13-2035 for the Department of Public Works. Item 16E is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of one 52-inch 29 HP Skag mower from Vaughn's Power Equipment Incorporated in the amount of $9,119 utilizing state contract number 409478 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16F is an ordinance authorizing accepting the lowest responsive bid received from the 3 Cs Properties Incorporated for an annual contract to supply a batch of mud on an as-needed basis to be used at various facilities in accordance with sealed bid number 13-6145 in an amount not to exceed $5,750 per year for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16G is an ordinance accepting the responsive bid from Kenner Automotive Repair in the amount of $5,373.50 to remove the engine in 2001 Ford F-450 Unit 6025 and replace a remanufactured engine in accordance with telephone bid number T13-2048 for the Department of Sewerage. Item 16H is an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Archery Supply Company for an annual contract to supply white field marking paint to be used at various recreation facilities in accordance with sealed bid number 13-6144 in an amount not to exceed $26,850 per year for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16I is an ordinance authorizing the utilization of state contract number 408832 with W.W. Granger Incorporated for the purchase of industrial maintenance, repair, and operational supplies on an as-needed basis not to exceed $50,000 annually for the Department of Public Works. Item 16J is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of 6 Monaco Model D811-A241 high-back open armchairs in the amount of $7,911, utilizing the State of Louisiana contract number 409097 with Gulf South Business Systems and Consultants Incorporated for the Kenner Police Department. Item 16K is an ordinance ratifying the emergency replacement of one 5-ton rooftop air conditioning and heating unit for the Clerk of Court located in City Hall Building A by Comfort Zone AC and Heating LLC in the amount of $6,107.92 in accordance with telephone bid number T13-2045 for the Department of Public Works. Item 16L is an ordinance approving the plan of re-subdivision of lots A, C2, D1, and E1 Hanson Place subdivision and lots 8, B1 and 12 Airport Industrial Park subdivision, Kenner Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, into lots D1A, D1B, and D1C Hanson Place subdivision, Kenner Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. Item 16M is an ordinance amending the 2012-2013 budget to budget FEMA funds and expenditures in connection with Hurricane Isaac, an adjustment to the City of Civic Center budget, and to provide additional funds for the city's self-insurance fund. Item 16N is a supplemental ordinance amending and supplementing ordinance number 5848, adopted on May 7, 1978, as amended and restated and readopted on July 7, 1994, the general bond ordinance, and ordinance number 10572, adopted on April 18, 2013, the 11th supplemental ordinance approving and confirming the sale of not exceeding $47 million of sales tax bonds, Series 2013, City of Kenner, State of Louisiana, approving the certificate of determination and the bond purchase agreement relating to the sale of bonds and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Item 16O is an ordinance authorizing a product lease agreement with meter rental agreement with Mail Finance Incorporated for the lease of postal scale and related equipment accessories for the Kenner Police Department. Item 17 is reports from the council and our special committees.
Yes, we have Councilwoman Brannigan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to, I guess, just remind everybody that we've just entered hurricane season, and very often when an event is coming and we're all scurrying around, one of the things that I often find in riding around and touching base with residents is that there's so many things that residents can do to prepare to mitigate the amount of damage that may happen to either their home or just in the amount of time that it takes for the streets to drain. And one of the biggest things is just bending over and picking up debris on your drains. I can't tell you how many times that we ride around and honestly, the city doesn't get power 1 second sooner because we're in office, but we feel like we have to do something, and that's the thing that I find myself doing most often. So before an event, if you would clean off your storm drain, and when the event stops, that there's things that are now being brought to the drains that keep the drains from being as effective as they could be if there wasn't things hanging over the drains. So that's just one thing that I want to recommend to the community that you really watch. And it's also grass cutting season. We have an ordinance which makes it, it's supposed to be illegal for you to blow those clippings into the drains because it does clog the drains and it does cause our drains to not drain as well. So please, these are all things that are put in place to protect our communities, and sometimes it's somebody's property. So I don't know if Mr. Dote, do you have anything that you want to add to that? A way that, I know you've done all of our homework, and getting us prepared for a response, but anything you want to add to that in preparation for the hurricane season?
Well, that's some very sound advice, and that's probably one of our biggest issues, is those small issues with the drains when the rains start coming. But we put a lot of information out on our website over the past couple of weeks concerning some programs that people can sign up for, some alert systems. There's some DSNAP program that people can pre-apply for if they wish. There's a lot of information on our website. We invite everybody to go on there and look and just take those steps now before the storm to do some family planning, some emergency planning. Just some simple things can really assist you and your family and business in surviving a storm.
And, you know, one of the things is information is just so powerful, because when people are without electricity, even when they've been allowed to stay here or when they're gone, just to know what's going on is sometimes comforting. And there are so many ways that you can sign up for different notifications, whether it's through the parish, whether it's through Entergy has an app for iPads that you can watch to see how energy is being restored in your community. You know, WWL has all these notifications would be extremely calming, I would say, for people to be able to have as much information to them. And, you know, while we have our mayor and he has put all these things in place, Mr. Dote, to, you know, organize our effort, the spokesperson for the parish, our parish president, is the one that you should be listening to. So when you don't hear the mayor saying a specific directive, it's because we follow there is a pecking order, and the parish president is the one who makes the determinations as to what evacuations or other things. It's not that the mayor doesn't concur with it, it's that we're trying to, there's one clear message. So
That's correct, and the mayor works very closely with the parish president, and there are briefings on almost an hourly basis during the major storm events. So it's really important for people to listen to what our parish officials say, and also look on our website for that information. We will carry that information on our city website as well. The other thing that's important is for our business owners, our local business owners. One of our priorities as a local community is to get our businesses back up and running as soon as possible. So we want to make sure all of our business owners go to the Jefferson Parish website and sign up for placards so they can get back into the city as soon as possible after the storm event has passed, and as soon as the local community is safe enough to support them.
Okay. And one other thing that I thought was extremely confusing in the last event, and it was something that kind of caught us off guard, was in our cleanup effort, there were certain colored bags that needed to be used to contain debris, and certain ones that needed to contain trash, so that we could know which to pick up and what we could get credit for from FEMA to be reimbursed. Is there some sort of set policy now, or is this something that, as we find out, we'll just dispense the information?
Well, we're going to pass that information on as detailed as we get it from FEMA and from our contractors, and put that information on the website as to what people need to do in order for the city to get that reimbursement from FEMA. So we have to listen to what FEMA tells us and provide that information to the public in the best manner that we can, along with our contractors.
So it's not something that's set, that we know going in as to what it's going to be. They determine these things depending on the situation?
Well, yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the situation and the amount of debris and type of debris that we're experiencing at the time. So it's gonna make the decision is something that FEMA will provide us with their guidelines. And as we all know, FEMA's guidelines change constantly. So we have to be aware of those guidelines and what changes are being made. We try to get that information out when a storm comes or right after the storm has passed. So we have the most up-to-date information.
And to be clear, tropical storm, is it Andrea or Andrea?
Andrea, I believe.
Okay. Is not a threat to us at this time.
Right. The latest information we have from the National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center and Storm Prediction Center is that it is not an immediate threat to us at this point.
Okay, and the number to call the city in the event when we get back up and running is going, all that's on the website, right?
Right, what the city's going to do, our Emergency Operations Center will be activated, and we will provide public numbers that will be announced by radio and telephone and by internet, and we will publish that information as widely as we can for people to call in for information.
Okay, great. I just wanted to, heighten everybody. I know you're on, this is the time that everything that you've been working for could be put into play, and we hope not. We hope it was all for nothing. But, this is the time right now when we should just be aware of things that we could be doing. I mean, we talked earlier about a storm blowing down the fence. And, I've seen where people have dismantled those fences because that's what they're kind of designed to do, so that in the event of a hurricane, not that the city has the capacity to go around and do this, even on our own fences, but all of those are things that people ought to be planning for in their own homes of what they could do to mitigate, whatever, try to lessen the impact on them individually.
Absolutely. Family disaster planning, business disaster planning is an individual responsibility. It's not just a government function. So people have to be prepared. They have to have their families prepared. We'll do our part, but they also need to do theirs as well.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And then on a personal note, I just wanted to congratulate my son, George, who got married over the Memorial Day holiday to his wife, Allie, who we absolutely adore. We had a wonderful time. It was a beautiful weekend, and we're just, tickled pink. I said I put on, Facebook, I'm getting a new dill, which is a daughter-in-law, and I thought that people actually knew what that meant. So I am a mill, and she is my dill. And anyway, another milestone in my life that I'd like to share with you and congratulate both of them publicly. So thank you.
You dill, okay. Councilman Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm sure, like myself, everyone in the city of Kenner have noticed a lot of construction with the thoroughfares in our city. In District 1, it's Williams Boulevard, District 2, West Metairie, and Roosevelt. And all of this is because of a program that the city have benefited from Path of Progress. Early on, there was a meeting here in the council chambers. Mr. Gonzalez attended, Councilman Stagg and I attended, relating to the Path to Progress. And if Mr. Gonzalez wouldn't mind, if he can give us an update on this program, one, giving us the status of the work going on now, when will it be completed, what's the next phase, what area we'll be going into, and also will there be another meeting like we had before a couple of months ago?
Okay, for starters, we are looking at roughly $25 million worth of work, all being financed by the federal government. The city is not obligated to, match any of that money at all. It's all 100% federal money. Currently, we have 6 projects going on, and you mentioned them. Roosevelt is one of them, West Metairie, Williams, Vintage, Loyola. Those are the ones that are going on right now that are expected to be completed by the end of this month, weather permitting. The next 3 projects that will be taking place will be in North Skinner. As a matter of fact, we had a public meeting last night on those 3 projects. Those are the resurfacing of Sal Lentini between Vintage and Jenny, the Jenny Boulevard between Sal Lentini and Williams Boulevard. That's panel replacements and resurfacing work. And the other one is Chateau Boulevard between Jenny and Vintage Drive. Those projects are expected to start in July. The remaining projects, we will have another public meeting. Those remaining projects are expected to start probably in 3 months from now. Those will be 31st Street resurfacing between Loyola and the Duncan Canal, Loyola Drive between the 3 Loyolas, and West Esplanade. And the final one which is probably going to create the most problems for us, will be West Esplanade between Williams and Ole Miss.
Well, thank you, sir. And like always, to fix up, sometimes you have to mess up. And people, I'm sure, have gotten a little bit upset with some of the construction, but it's all part of the process. And I'm sure after it's all said and done, it will make everything much better. We look forward to the next phase. We also look forward to the next meeting, which will affect other areas in District 1 and also District 5 and 5.1. Also, we look forward to that and also the ones after that. So thanks for their update. Please keep us informed, and we appreciate you and your staff, all your hard work. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Councilwoman DeFrancis, you have the floor.
I just wanted to encourage people to attend some of these meetings. I unfortunately had a problem. My mom was not feeling well, so I got to the meeting late, a little bit late, but it was amazing to me how few people showed up. I know Councilman Reno was there because I ran into him when I got there, but I believe only about 4 people showed up for that meeting, 4 people. And I can tell you that we called people throughout District 4 to come to that meeting just so they would be aware of what was going on. So I want to encourage everyone, when the City of Kenner has meetings, such as for Path to Progress or the 2030 Plan, we encourage you all to come to those meetings so you can be informed and give your input and have questions answered. I spoke to not only Councilman Reno, but the lady who actually did the presentation, and I said, I can't believe the meeting's over already, just as I'm getting here. And she explained again how that really it was unbelievably quick. And we want you to participate. We need you to participate. And I think it's in everyone's best interest to participate. Am I not correct, Mr. Gonzalez?
Absolutely.
And I know Councilman Reno agrees with me as well. Thank you.
Councilman Reno, you do have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to let everybody know that there's the LSU game's going to be at Driftwood Country Club this weekend. I believe they're going to do it Friday night and then Saturday and Sunday. Also, I want to thank Valerie Wagasback for helping my assistant, Darylyn. We put out our first District 3 email newsletter. And you can sign up. You can either call the council office and they'll sign up, or you can go on our Facebook page and just click on and sign up right there, and you'll get a monthly update on not only District 3, but also the city. And we also have a little recipe that goes out with it every month. So thanks, Val.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along.
Yes, ma'am. Item 18 is new business.
We have none.
Item 19 is unfinished business and/or motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position.
We have none.
Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Yes, we do. The first 2 sign-ins have left the building. Mr. Al Morello on the opposite side of the chambers today.
I'm all over, Jeannie. Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 41 years. I want to respond to some comments that was made in here at the last meeting. I want to direct this response to Councilman Denopoulos. The curbing, as it relates to the curbing issue, Councilman, there's 2 blocks on West Loyola where the curbing stops. It stops at the end of the 4000 block. And there's 2 entire blocks on East Loyola. Now, you stated that my block would probably next, according to your system that you said you had a couple of years ago when I confronted you with this issue. Now, the way I look at it, Councilman Denopoulos, you're either out of touch on this issue or you made some comments that was misleading. Now, you also commented you'd like to know where I get my information from. Well, I'll tell you where I get my information from. What my 2 eyes see. That's where I get my information from. Now, I want to comment on the lawsuit, the second lawsuit filed against this city involving this administration and Citizens for a Better Kenner. Now, with all due respect, Mr. Benetti's here in the audience. On April the 16th, on this bond issue, the mayor had a town hall meeting in this council chamber. and this council chamber was packed, okay? Now, at that town hall meeting, I suggested that this issue be brought before the council with some discussion, and the council look at the possibility of putting a referendum on the ballot and giving the people of Kent an opportunity to vote on whether or not they wanted to incur this new debt. Nothing was expressed by Mr. Benetti that night as far as anything contrary to the charter or what have you. Now here we are a month later, we got yet another lawsuit. Now, I said it when the last lawsuit was filed by the administration against this city, and I'm going to say this again. Litigation in the state of Louisiana is a $100 million a year business. Lawsuits, counter lawsuits. Now, I'm going to say this. Whatever side is wrong on this issue, and I'm not taking any sides at all, whatever side is wrong on this issue, I would appreciate it very much if the losing party would pay all fines, if there's any fines incurred, and all legal fees. These legal fees were just back and forth I mean, it's clear to see there's a feud going on here. It's clear to see this. The last time I seen a feud waged like this down here was back in 2004, 2006 by a former mayor that was carried out against the then police chief and the entire Kenner Police Department. So all I say is, whoever the losing party is, pick up the tab, man, because me as a citizen in this town, I'm getting tired of this. I don't think the citizens of Kenner should have to go in their pocket for this kind of stuff. Now, if the mayor's wrong and he didn't follow the charter, then I would appreciate it if he would pay the legal fee straight up. And the same thing with the other party.
Thank you, Al.
Anybody got any comments, any questions for me?
Councilman Stagney, you had the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to correct one statement. We did have a meeting here on the bond issue. It was a meeting where I emailed the mayor to have a District 2 meeting in these chambers. He accepted based on that information. Now, it was open to the public later, and the mayor did put out a press release later saying that he called the meeting. Before that, the paper had correctly reported that he wasn't going to hold the meeting. Then he held one meeting. Then there was a second meeting here. So I thought it was good that the public be engaged. It was specifically a District 2 meeting based on the emails, and that's why the Times-Picayune said that I had initiated the meeting with him. So, Mr. Benetti, and you're right, they had a lot of people here, and I'm glad they came to hear the explanation of what we were trying to do. Now, so far as the legal fees, let's just see what happens with the case. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. There's here, no one else has wished to
Thank you,
address-
Jeannie.
No, don't tell me. The man who knows all the procedures forgot to sign up.
No, I didn't forget to sign up.
Identify yourself, please.
Richard Brown, 824 Sessions Lane, Kenner. No, I didn't forget to sign up. I spoke on the ordinance, which didn't require signing up.
teasing you,
And I didn't
Richard.
realize until I looked at the agenda that there was something I wanted to speak on after I got here. And Madam President, it's something I hope that either Teresa Nevels, the purchasing director, or someone on the council will look into. And it's one of the ordinances that was up for first reading tonight that won't get voted on until the next meeting. It's number 16A, an ordinance accepting a bid to buy 14 10-foot by 10-foot pop-up tents for $9,500. You can buy those tents for $100 a piece at Walmart or Academy Sports.
What item was that again, please?
Item 16A.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I understand these may be heavy-duty tents. They may not be the same thing you buy at Walmart or at Academy Sports, but almost $10,000 for 14 10-foot by 10-foot tents that you can buy at Walmart. I wonder if that really makes sense. Maybe I'm missing something.
Well-
Maybe there's something special about
Well,
those
we can't really discuss it until it comes up for discussion at the next council meeting, but
I
thank you.
understand.
Thank you for
But
bringing it
I wanted
our
to bring it to everyone's
And I
attention.
appreciate that very much. Councilman Stagney, you had the floor. I think he has. Did you remove your cue? Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Madam President. I was just going to say that it was done by bid, and that, will be up for discussion at the next meeting, but the highest bid was somewhere around $26,000. So we'll have Mr. Maricoli come up and tell us about it then. In the meantime, I'm sure some of us will ask some questions, and we'll let you know. Thank you.
I second that emotion. All right. Hearing no other discussion, do we have a motion to adjourn? Meeting adjourned.